Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to be standing here today and to welcome you to Pestalozzi's final Leavers Ceremony here in Sedlescombe. My name is Nancy and I work at Pestalozzi as the Student Programme Assistant, and I will be your MC for tonight. Firstly, may I give you the housekeeping rules. Mobile phones must be switched off and there should be no photography during the ceremony. The toilets are found in the corridor to your left-hand side, and those of you who have previously attended a Leavers ceremony will know that they can often be somewhat of an emotional affair, so please have tissues at the ready. Tonight, I invite you to join me in celebrating the spirit of Pestalozzi. Pestalozzi is the sentence, we're from 9 different countries. It's the ability to connect with another human spirit on the wall outside the student programme office. It was seeing Tenzin Jampa get accepted into MIT, a university he's dreamt of attending since the age of 11. It is sandals being slid on over socks to run outside and see Prabadik giving us yet another lecture on the moon. It's the steepness of the driveway you have to walk to get up here and the gratitude that you feel when you get the view at the top. It's debates about philosophy across the dinner table. And it's taking all that you've learned in England and going to teach it back in a school in rural Zimbabwe. It's a place where your name always follows the country you're from, where you can sit and hear Hindi being spoken in one ear and Shona in the other. And it's where noodles are always being cooked at a very unsociable hour. It's the universal language of a smile, and it's a woven tapestry of threads wrapped up in the identity of a ladybird and the boundless human capacity for love. Mingya Powden is from Tibet. Upon receiving a cake for her 18th birthday, she asked me whether on her behalf I would cut it up, take it into Hastings and hand it out to homeless people. Precious Katai is from Zambia. In 2 weeks, she will be returning home to run a project in her community, providing students with school uniforms and teaching them about sanitation. Ashish Acharya is from Nepal. Upon returning home, he plans to volunteer for an organisation that rebuilds the homes devastated by the 2015 earthquake. Pestalozzi students are extraordinary, and tonight we will recognise their achievements as individuals, scientists, humanitarians, and some of the biggest hearts I've ever known. First, I would like to invite Professor Stuart Lang, our Chair of Trustees, to welcome you all here tonight.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, and above all, Pestalozzi students of the class of 2019, welcome to this year's Leavers Ceremony. As you've heard, my name is Stuart Lang. I have the privilege of chairing the Board of Trustees of the Pestalozzi International Village Trust. And it really is wonderful to see such a gathering of friends and supporters of the Trust here this evening. I would like, if I may, to thank particularly distinguished representatives of our partner nations who've joined us for this celebration. Karen Simplis, First Secretary to the Belize High Commission, and the Chair of the Bhutan Society, Mr. Andrew Sutton. I'd also like to thank our many stalwart supporters here from the County of Sussex for being with us this evening, particularly the Vice Lord Lieutenant of Sussex, Mrs. Sarah Stoner, and Councillor Terry Byrne, the Chair of the Rother District Council, and many other people I've seen around already and talked to. You're really most welcome. And above all, I would like to thank the patron of our charity, His Royal Highness the Duke of Gloucester, for joining us this evening. He's been an absolute joy and treasure for over 40 years as patron of our charity, and an extraordinary thanks to him. Ceremonies such as this are always marked by profoundly mixed emotions, and that's particularly so this year, which marks the last year of the charity's operations here in this village. First, there is joy, the joy of celebrating the achievements and personal growth of our students, not merely in terms of each individual, but even more, perhaps, in the creation of a truly international, multiracial, multi-faith community of friendship and learning. This is a community which will continue to develop in the years to come, just as each individual will develop and make a positive impact in that shared global village where all of humanity now lives. But there is sadness too. While the wonders of the World Wide Web and social media can these days allow new kinds of virtual communities to flourish, the particular character of the Pestalozzi village experience, living, eating, learning, debating, playing, arguing, working physically together, is now coming to a close for our class of 2019. Such endings are, of course, the way of the world. The more exciting and involving such a community experience may be, the more intense then the sense of loss when that period of our life, of growing up together within a particular community, comes to a close. It is part of a coming to maturity for all of us that we need to see that such happiness and sorrow are often two sides of the same coin. The departure of the class of 2019 to their home countries, and for many onto universities in Europe, Africa, Asia, or the USA, is however not the end of the story, any more than is the departure of the Pestalozzi International Village Trust itself from the Sedlescombe village. For beyond the community of the class of 2019 lies a global community of many thousands of people whose lives have been touched by the existence and life of the Pestalozzi International Village. These include many hundreds of alumni stretching back over the past 60 years, many past and current staff, funders, small and large, host families, volunteers, the many people over the years of Sedlescombe and of this area of Sussex who've taken Pestalozzi and the Pestalozzi children and students to their heart. Local support groups we've had from Lewis to the Isle of Man, and many educationalists and other close colleagues based in our partner countries across 4 continents. All these people, among whom we can now number ourselves, do truly compose an active and dynamic worldwide web of our own, a network of people committed to making the educational ideals of the Pestalozzi tradition flourish and grow. The Pestalozzi International Village Trust sees its future as part of this global community. Under our new name of the Pestalozzi International Foundation, as from this September we will be funding 2 strands of activity designed to further the Pestalozzi ideals. First, we will continue to fund scholars at the age of 16 and 17 plus, who will now be based at United World Colleges International, of which you will hear more later this evening. And secondly, we will have an entirely new funding stream called the Pestalozzi Development Fund, which will make small pump priming grants to those of our former students who are now setting up or seeking to set up educational and socially progressive development projects in their home countries. So the future is bright, and we invite all of you to join us and support us in whatever way you are able in our new ventures. But now let us recall that tonight is above all about recognising the achievements of and saying farewell to our brilliant class of 2019. And where better to start the evening than with the voices of the students.
Please will you now join me in a round of applause as we welcome Ravimbo and Isaac to the stage to share their Pestalozzi experiences with us.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Dear Pestalozzi class of 2019, finally, we have made it. This is it. Time has come for us to embark onto the next journey of our lives, and I'm sure Pestalozzi has prepared us for it. Lamson, do you remember on our first day of school, you woke up very early in the morning and took a trip down here to take the 349 bus, only to discover that the Pesta bus was right at the doorstep. Das, I think I know the reason why you dropped chemistry. I guess you understand chemistry so much to the extent of trying to light up a Bunsen burner by connecting it to a water tap. It's a new experiment I have to try out. Mingyur, I hope you have learned that third buses only existed Pestalozzi. Olivia, I think if 1,000 alarms are put next to you, there would still be a lullaby to your ears. Even with Angelina pounding on your door and pulling your blankets, you still couldn't wake up on time. Precious, the self-proclaimed lady boss, I admire your stance of life. Bernice, for the past 2 years, I've always admired how you managed to attend every class, except for only one day when you disappeared in our math class after a good conversation with Mr. Wood. Isaac, I admire the courage you had when you sent a sweet message to Ruramai. I hope your dream love story will unfold soon. Jumper, I hope you find some privacy with the love of your life, only if you cut off ties with Prabhudik and Das, which I presume will not happen anytime soon. Nishao, are you still in contact with the Adinley girl? Because I'm sure you have unfinished business. Top game, my date. I'm still trying to find words to describe you, but know that you're an amazing person. Prabhudik, I wish you all the best in doing further maths. Marion, you are the queen of the dance floor. Acharya, you know that we love your carefree attitude. Joylyn, thank you for being the best roommate ever. I couldn't have asked for more. King Zhang, thank you for believing in me and always standing up for me in situations where I'd lost my strength. I once considered you as a friend, but I think I've found a partner in crime. Despite having distinct characters, we have so many things in common, like always complaining about the British food and the British weather. I bet everyone was always looking forward to house meetings where Megs would give the sweetest speech all the time. But in all seriousness, thank you, Megs. I think we've all learned to be accountable. Swissol, I think if Alex and Rebecca were asked to write a book about the array of moods and attitudes they received when serving us food, they would write 1,000 pages. But nevertheless, they looked past those attitudes and went an extra mile to always make sure that we were happy whilst eating the food they served us. Thank you, Alex, Rebecca, Leslie, and Joe, for being patient with us when we came early for dinner. After being taught by amazing teachers, now I understand that teaching comes from the heart. Considering that English is not our first language, it meant our teachers had to repeat things over and over again, but I'm grateful for their patience. Thank you, David, Mr. Barrows, Mr. Eckhoff, and all the Claremont teachers. Class of 2019, it is now time. The time I knew would come, sooner or later, but dreaded. I have to say goodbye to the only people I felt cared, to the only people that I felt happy with. How am I supposed to do it without feeling like I've lost a part of me? Well, it's inevitable that everything has an end and a beginning, but what is most important is what we shared in between. To me, Pestalozzi has been a garden of growth, watered by love, and sprout forth memories which will forever be engraved in my heart. There is such sadness in living a place of strong love, a place where fond memories grew as fast as the clover in the grass. I know I will savor each memory so strongly that it almost leave once more. I know that the strands of love will keep us together even when we are far apart. I only have to reach out with my mind, and there you are, waiting to shower me with the love as you always did. The separation can only ever be temporary, even though it spans beyond this mortal existence. Thank you.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. When news of my Pestalozzi Scholarship Award spread through the hallways of my school, I would get pats on the back and congratulating me for the great achievement. Whispers exchanged every time I walked by. Is he the one going to the UK? Wow, he is so lucky. His life is all sorted out now. I became a model for a successful student, with juniors asking me how they too could make it. This short period of fame and glory taught me how easy it can be for one to lose their sights and visions for a little praise. We all want some sometimes, if not all the time. Now, from all the movies, TV shows, and books I had read, I had to say the least, great expectations for life at Pestalozzi. The stories told to me by my former schoolmate and senior Eric only helped amplify these expectations. September 2017, That's when my official Pestalozzi experience started. With Mags holding a piece of paper with a big smile. I had no idea how rare that smile would become later. I got to SK. I was warmly welcomed by seniors and staff. I decided to clean up and take a rest, but my then roommate had decided it was a good idea to lock the room and take the keys with him to school. Thank you, Jumper. Now, it goes without saying, when it is cold, you turn on the radiator. But my roommate was having none of that because he was an environmentalist. We, however, managed to reach a compromise. We would turn on the radiator until the room was warm enough, and then we would turn it off. It was a tradition that after a few months, you would change roommates. My new roommate, the Prince of Ozorongo, had his own rules. The radiator always stays on full blast, the window wide open. No latch required, just let the pen dance with the wind. It was more than a pleasure sharing room with you two. I learned a ton from you guys. I will never forget the night we spent appreciating each other. Got hungry and decided to make noodles with hot water from the bathroom sink. Bad idea. Lemson, Prabidik, Nishal, Acharya, Das, Top Gear, and Jumper. It might sound cliche, but over these 2 years, you guys have become like brothers to me, and I will miss you all. Remember when we were, to put it lightly, thrashed by not one but 4 teams of men in the Hastings Multicultural Football Tournament? Even though most of us got injured, in what seemed to be a battle of strength, we managed to stay alive. Or the night we spent in a tent, crammed up together to keep warm, trying to watch a movie with a poor Wi-Fi in the field. Girls, worry not. You two have become like sisters to me and will be missed. Being the only Pestalozzi boy doing biology has helped me learn a lot about about colleagues of my opposite sex. Lesson number 1 is that almost everything is a secret. The other lessons I never got to learn because they were all secrets. But not once did I feel left out. I'm grateful for every single one of you. You have all been a blessing to me and have contributed a lot to the man I am now. Rest assured, every single act of kindness is engraved on my heart, never to be forgotten. I am ever grateful for this place, and the memories made here will forever be alive in my heart and mind. A big thank you to the SP team, Faye, Mags, Nancy, Patri, and Carol, for always being there to help and advise us and to give us words of encouragement. You guys are the best. Another big thank you goes out to the finance team and all the volunteers, past and present. This place would be incomplete without the flair and the life you added to this community. All your contributions are very much appreciated. I'm sure when I go back, I'll have juniors asking me about my experiences here and how they too can make it here. I'll have many wonderful and inspirational stories to tell them. I'll be more than happy to teach them the Pestalozzi ethos, head, heart, and hands, and hope that it will inspire them to make a difference, just as it has done to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you both so much for such beautiful and comical and informative speeches. Isaac, I will never forget your performance in the International Women's Day play. playing a character so different to your own, and more so your patience during the rehearsals where just about everything that could go wrong did, lots of sets falling over, lots of costume mishaps. Ravimbo, I think you're wise beyond your years, and I can't wait to see the successes you make when you go to America. As you now know, Pestalozzi going forward will be in partnership with United World Colleges, and I would now like to invite Jens Waltermann to the stage to tell us more about UWC and the next chapter we're going to embark upon together.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, and above all, Pestalozzi class of 2019. Let me begin by expressing my thanks for the privilege of being here with you this evening. As I have learned from meeting many generations of UWC students and alumni over the years, and as we no doubt are starting to appreciate and learn this evening from the accomplished group of Pestalozzi scholars that we're listening to, there is nothing as powerful as education to transform lives of young people. As Nelson Mandela, the late honorary president of UWC, once said, education is the most powerful weapon to change the world. Your presence here this evening speaks to your commitment to creating a better future for us all through education. For that, I thank you all. This evening is a celebration of education. Receiving an international baccalaureate, or in your case, the previous generation, in your case, the A-levels, if I understand correctly, is no small feat, particularly when one is far from home and in some cases studying in another language. It is a celebration of the leavers, including the ones that we've been listening to. You have learned and accomplished so much, and you have every reason to celebrate and be proud. Yet with knowledge and opportunity comes responsibility. In the years to come, you will become voices for a more peaceful, just, and compassionate world. That is the magic of education in Mandela's sense. Education that creates opportunity not just for the ones who enjoy it, but also for their communities, and ultimately for the world. This understanding of education is something that Pestalozzi and UWC fundamentally have in common. As the Pestalozzi Leavers look toward their future, so do we all look to the future of Pestalozzi International Foundation and its scholarship program. I'm very happy to be here this evening representing UWC, the United World Colleges, celebrating not only this graduating class, but also the growing partnership between Pestalozzi and the UWC movement. The UWC movement is proud to welcome 5 new scholars starting in 2020 to UWC Atlantic College in Wales, in St. Donat's Castle. And I'm sure they will help us achieve our shared goal of educating the ethical, compassionate, and globally conscious leaders of tomorrow. UWC has been making education a force to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future since the founding of UWC Atlantic College in 1962. Like the Pestalozzi International Village, UWC Atlantic College is located on acres of beautiful land in the UK, but is dedicated to the education of deserving students from across the entire globe. And since 1962, this first UWC has developed into 18 UWC schools and colleges all across that globe. We will be welcoming 2,500 new students in 2020 across these 18 schools. They were sought out and selected by 3,000 volunteers this year, working across 160 countries in very similar situations that you've gone through to find exceptional students like yourselves. And partnering with Pestalozzi will enable us to reach even deeper into disadvantaged communities in Southeast Asia and Africa, communities where children do not dare to dream of an international education unless they're lucky enough to meet Pestalozzi or UWC. The head, heart, and hands educational model here at Pestalozzi is mirrored in the holistic and experiential education at UWC, although we never knew quite how to put it as nicely as Pestalozzi does. Focusing not only on academics, but also on the development of our students, their values, and their commitment to serving others. At UWC, we speak of educating bridge builders, not wall builders, of enabling students to appreciate difference, even to celebrate it, and to develop a deep understanding of how we can work together across divides, both within and between communities and nations. While it is upon all of us to make sure that we stem the tide of identity politics and separation, it will be upon you, the Pestalozzi Leavers of this year, to put your education in good use, and to share that with the coming generations of Pestalozzi UWC scholars in order to build new bridges of goodwill and for the peace in the world. There's a quote from Kurt Hahn on the wall at Atlantic College in Wales, the founding father of UWC and in many ways of reform education, together with Johann Pestalozzi, for example, which is relevant today, or as relevant today as it was at the height of the Cold War when Atlantic College was founded. It reads as follows: "Two passions are not likely to die out in this world: love of country and love of liberty. They will be kept pure by one ideal, which can tame yet not weaken them: genuine love for all mankind." Thank you again for being here this evening to mark the beginning of a new era of Pestalozzi UWC scholarships. We are stronger together, and together we will educate the most diverse and deserving group of students to become tomorrow's leaders for a more just and peaceful world. Thank you very much.
Jens, thank you so much for joining us here tonight and for speaking and for your words of encouragement for our students and your vision for education. I'm really happy that we found an organisation to collaborate with that holds values so similar to our own and will enable us to keep these principles alive. Thank you so much. Our first student speakers came from the continent of Africa, and now in true Pestalozzi fashion, we will fly all the way to Asia. Please join me in welcoming Prabadik and Joellen to share with us what being here has meant for them these last 2 years.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It feels like it has just been 2 weeks coming to Pestalozzi, but the truth is that it has already been 2 years. It is difficult to track the time here in Pestalozzi. Truly, time flies so quickly with you all. I still remember the moment I landed in the UK, 6:18 p.m., 7 September 2017. That first step in my dream country will always be a special and memorable moment for me, and it was even made more sweeter with Nancy's warm welcome. It was just like my own sister welcoming back to home, getting special hugs and welcome from all the seniors and friends, even at 10:40 at night on the first day, quickly spiraled me into the heart of this lively community. Everything was new. Climate, better to say weather, as England doesn't have climate. It just has weather. Environment, school, teachers, friends, and the education system. Initially, I was scared for all the sudden changes. But staying and enjoying time with seniors and the friends, all these changes became exciting experiences. I didn't miss my family, although I was almost 8,000 kilometers away from home. One of the reasons was I got quickly involved with Pestalozzi activities. Movie nights with friends, watching football with Nidup, Isaac, Joffreyman, and Eric, cooking with Amir and Ayush Dai, Nishal and Ashish, playing football, playing cricket with Samir and Das, performing the same Nepali dance more than 5 times, guitar, Spanish and Eco Club, although I hardly attended a few times in the last 2. To mention a few, Pestalozzi's diversity taught me a lot, which I could have never imagined back in Nepal. It changed my perspective of being an extreme nationalist to being a global citizen. Pestalozzi's core value of respect, love, and integrity has taught me to respect, love, and care for humanity. Coming to Pestalozzi, I have learned more life lessons than I could have got in my family and my society. If someone asks me, what is the most exciting part of Pestalozzi? With no hesitation, my answer would be Pestalozzi's trips. I have enjoyed these trips so much that I can't even put it into words. As an academic, athlete, and traveling person, I feel really proud and privileged to have multiple trips to London. Honestly, I had tears of happiness when I visited the Science Museum. Trip to Cambridge, Oxford, 1 week research at Kent University, visit to Darwin's and Kipling's house, museums, Wembley, Wimbledon, Lord's, Selhurst Park, Portsmouth, Brighton, Canterbury, tube journey in London, Rye, recent trip to Birmingham and Chessington are very special to me. I always feel lucky to have Faye and Nancy as my trip guide. Nancy, when was that bridge made? Nancy, what is the speed of that car? Which is the fastest train in the UK? Faye, when and how was the underwater tunnel made? How many Sainsbury's are there in the UK? Why is it called the A21? Thank you so much, Faye and Nancy, for having so much patience, keeping calm and answering all my questions, sometimes with the help of Google. I'll never forget these special trips of Pestalozzi. At this moment, I feel very lucky to have been given the opportunity to go to Claremont Senior School. I will always be grateful for all the facilities and intensive care Claremont has given to us. Swimming, cricket, football at Claremont would always be memorable. I feel lucky to have a teacher like Mr. Acuff, who is supportive 24 hours a day. I'll never forget further maths and physics class, including all the jokes and intellectual discussion with him. I definitely would like to be a human and a dad like you, Mr. Acuff. These 2 years at Pestalozzi are definitely the golden years of my life. 2 years back in Nepal, I was unsure what my future was going to be like. If I was still in Nepal, I would have been forced to marry engineering, although my girlfriend is physics with mathematics. Thank you so much, Pestalozzi, for giving me direction. I would not have got in my dream university, Harvard, without your support. Thank you so much for all the guidance throughout the application process and throughout life at Pestalozzi. How much I try, I would never be able to thank Faye, Nancy, Max, and Patri for all the emotional support they have given me during the stressful times, SAT preparation, college application process, and A-levels exam. I'm forever grateful for you for showing me the right path through the difficulties too. And thank you so much, Elist and Anita, for guiding throughout the SAT process. I feel very blessed to have such amazing friends. Every moment with you is special, from cooking noodles, obviously, to watching movies, dancing like a crazy person, to having intellectual discussion, playing games to helping in homework, sharing culture to lifestyle, appreciating to teasing one another, and completing chemistry practicals, although we hardly knew what we were doing in the lab. Thank you for all the support and life lessons you have given. You guys are gifted. Everyone has their own specialty and potentiality to bring positive changes to the world. I also feel lucky to have Howard and Chris as my host parents. Thank you so much for being my family in the UK. And thank you so much for all the trips and festivals we have celebrated together. You are the best host parents. Pestalozzi has given all of us infinite opportunity for our overall growth. Once again, every one of us would like to thank from the deep corner of our heart. We promise to be Pestalozzi ambassador to bring positive changes in the Mother Earth. We promise to work for the betterment of humanity and to inspire young minds to make a difference. We grew in the heart of Pestalozzi. From now onwards, Pestalozzi will forever grow in our hearts. Thank you.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I still can recall the first weeks of my time here at Pestalozzi, when I was not even sure about quite a lot of things. Why do the buildings have their own name? How does the weather change so unpredictably here? Slowly, I learned to adapt to this really different environment. The first day of school, my heart was beating faster out of excitement as Ed drove us into the Claremont small lane. Being taught in a totally different language, it took me quite a while time to figure out what my teacher was saying in the class. I just nodded and smiled every time they look at me, as if I understood everything they said. Thank you to all the Claremont teachers who always gave us caring and loving hands to make sure that we had all of the resources we need. I want to say a special thank you to Mr. Barrows, who always found a way to make the biology lessons really enjoyable, especially with the sweetest models of muscle and DNA. I'm pretty sure that you will miss Precious, Olivia, and I singing or making noise in your class. Thank you, Claremont, for supporting me to embrace my musical interest through various events, from the Fiddler on the Roof musical to Claremont Fest. I want to also mention Jampa, Olivia, and Precious, people who got stuck with me in our band, where even up until now we are still confused about our name. Thank you for all the memories we created, especially in our serious rehearsals and performances. Thank you also for the other choir members, Bernice, Marian, Top Gay, Mingyur, Rufimbo, and possibly Isaac, who were so dedicated to giving the best of themselves. I will also say thank you to my Eco Club Rangers, especially Top Gay, Jampa, and Isaac, for not giving up on our sweet little greenhouse, and everyone who supported us along the way by donating seeds, planting, and watering. Jack Vanek once said, "You are the books you read, the films you watch, the music you listen to, the people you meet, the dreams you have, and the conversation you engage in. You are what you take from this." Coming here was a life-changing decision, not just for me, but also for all of my friends. We know that life has always been a mystery, and now when I reflect on my journey here, I genuinely feel that Pestalozzi has given me some life lessons through its head, heart, and hands education concept. I want to highlight 3 lessons to share with you today. Lesson number 1, try new things, even if you're afraid. Obviously, you can see the example right now at this moment as I read this speech in front of you. It's not something I'm really comfortable with, but I just give it a go. Another example is trying to change your hairstyle because you know you have the village's best hairstylist here at Pestalozzi, thanks to Nancy. Or just simply running the half marathon because you know that it will be quiet, fun, and challenging. Lesson number 2, be flexible and ready for change. Life is unpredictable and we need to learn to cope with that. This is one of the most important lessons I learned. Some things don't always work out the way you want them to, but life still continues. I still remember the time when we arrived at a care home that didn't expect us to be there, and we needed to find out the way to get to the right care home. When we finally got there, my guitar string broke, and we needed to find a creative way to continue on with the show. Changes have also happened in the way in which I view things. Rejection is not a failure, but it is indeed a learning process in life. I am grateful to get to know this at a really young age. For my dearest friends that have been admitted to colleges in every part of the world, congratulations, and we know that you will make us proud. For my dearest friends who are still figuring out their path in life, congratulations, because we will have a year of holiday after this. But make sure you take the most out of it and discover more about yourself. We will get there. Lesson number 3, good people are everywhere. In this wonderful opportunity, I would love to say a massive thank you to people who gave their time and effort to make us feel like we have a family here, our beloved host families. You gave us so many memories to remember, especially to my host parents, Rebecca and John, for always getting me home just about on time with a really full belly. And on behalf of the students, I want to thank you for the unforgettable ponies ride experiences. The time and memories that we all have shared in these 2 years will always be in my heart. I can't believe how quick this day comes for me to say a million thank you to you all for all the amazing experiences. May we keep on growing and learning wherever we are in the world and make a difference in other people's life. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. Joellen, if I could ask anyone here that's met you to describe you in one word, the word that always comes up is kind. You're such a nurturing soul, and I hope you take that home with you. I know you will. I hope you keep on singing as well. I can't wait to see all the things that you achieve. Prabadik, as the person who was lucky enough to pick you up from the airport, it's absolutely heartwarming to see all that you've witnessed while you've been, all that you've achieved while you've been here. Your endless curiosity will take you far, although it may sometimes slightly exhaust those around you. I've never before had someone ask me which London tube journey was the longest, why homelessness still exists, and what the flag of Venezuela looks like, all within the same breath. Watching you call your mum in Nepal to tell her that you gained admission to Harvard was one of the best moments, not only of my career, but of my life. Thank you. Please will you now join me in a round of applause to welcome His Royal Highness the Duke of Gloucester to give his address.
Well, to start with, may I thank you for inviting me for your leaving event here today. I seem to remember a long time ago I came to a reception for Pestalozzi, and I had a rather vague idea of what it was all about. But it seemed to me that it was an altruistic charity that wanted to provide education for people from all around the world who might not otherwise have access to it. And at that time, you took them, I think, at 13, or was it 14, and these rather small children arrived in this rather terrifying place. And they found they were on this beautiful hillside with lots of grass and trees, and various houses for the different nations on the assumption that they were all of a different culture and that they would all have culture shock unless they were suitably housed in this way. And I think that worked very well for quite a long time, but over years you decided that it was the later age group that was really more important, because most of these people could get a good education in their home countries, at least in secondary education terms. And therefore you looked for a slightly older age group for tertiary education. And I think that was, I have no doubt, a sound decision. And that process has certainly advanced, and that you've realized that this residential establishment here had become a bit out of date. And by going in with the world colleges, you're taking a very logical step. But I'm delighted to meet the last graduates, as it were, and to see that the spirit is still very much here, even if you're a rather small group compared to the vast numbers that were living here at one time. But I do recall that there was another aspect to it that wasn't really just about educating you lot. It was also the assumption that blasé British school children who regarded school as an obligation rather than a privilege, that it would be very good for them to have somebody next door who took education as a privilege and as something to be valued. And I don't know if any of you have had that experience of people saying, oh gosh, I've got to go to school, you know, they're going to educate me, which is really very boring, but you know, mummy and daddy seem to be quite pleased that I'm not in their way all day. And so you were integrated with the people from Sussex who had the foresight to see that there was a value in Pestalozzi and in educating, giving those who would otherwise not have had that chance an extra possibility to grow into the people that they could become, rather than be held back by whatever the local tradition was. And I think having met ex-students all over the world, they do say, well, it's been very interesting. We find it easier to work for international businesses because they appreciate our personalities and our ability to make a comment. And that if we join very often a local business which is run by the big chief, and they say, well, how about doing it this way instead of that way? They're told, well, what do you know? Shut up. You know, we're the management, and you're the chaps who have to do what they're told. And that the ex-Pestalozzi students, they'd say, well, what have we been educated for if our opinion isn't worth anything? So I think that was a sort of aspect of it that hadn't really been anticipated. But I'm convinced that we have many ex-Pestalozzi students who are doing a great deal for their communities because they have learnt how to question things and how to go about things in their own way. And I always say that one of the most interesting lessons you can learn as you turn from a child into an adult is that you can achieve so much more if you combine with other people to achieve things than you ever can just by yourself. And it seems to me that you as a group who have been sort of shuffled together, as it were, from all over the world, have probably learnt that rather quicker than those who are used to their own communities, as it were, and not to others. So could I just say it's a very great pleasure to be associated with this place. It's sad in a way that it's no longer going to be Pestalozzi. It's going to be something quite different. But I'm delighted to hear that your spirit is going to be transferred to Wales, where they also have a few beautiful hillsides, which you will be expected to climb from time to time, and that your successors will perhaps remember the history of Pestalozzi, which after all goes back centuries, and was based on altruism, and was based on the idea that there are many people in this country who would like to have an international vision of helping people, and have over the last few decades given of their money freely to Pestalozzi because they could see the value and they could see the consequence of offering this education to those who otherwise might not have had access to it. And I wish all of you the very best of luck as you go out to become world leaders, engineers, and doctors, and all sorts of interesting things. And I wish you all the very best of luck in the next stage of your lives and your education. Thank you.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, our Sweet 16 students, the final to be resident here in the International Village. They may be small in number, but they are certainly large in heart. So we would like to spend just a bit of time meeting each one of them, and I would like to call forward again our patron, Your Royal Highness, to present the certificates to the students. This first young lady, determined, focused, with a gracious heart. She is heading off to Wellesley College in the US, Revimbo. Well, for this next young gentleman, I will have a very broad smile. He seems to have grown taller by the day, requiring a new wardrobe almost every week. A gentle giant, taking a gap year and returning to Uganda, is Isaac. Our next student, certainly a man of a million questions, and you may not know he's also a published author. He's heading off to Harvard to make more heads spin. Pravidik. Now, this next young lady certainly has tried her hand at all sorts of new things, and she's also developed her horse riding skills. Definitely a key member of the choir, as I heard them all practicing today. She has an interest in human nutrition, and I hope she will use that to further her home country of Indonesia in the future. I also hope that you will fulfill your dream of skydiving at some point in the future. Jolyn. This next young man is our Rotaract president and a drummer extraordinaire, as you can hear the drum beats resounding around the Pestalozzi Village. He also has a keen interest in computing and IT, and he is heading off to the University of Pennsylvania. Nis Chow. Ever reliable. Usually the first to respond to any email that I send. I'm glad somebody does. She can also be heard practicing her piano skills. And I'm pleased to say that she will be volunteering with the Human Rights Commission in Belize during her gap year in Belize. He may be one of our youngest students, but we have seen him mature and grow in so many ways, not least in his sense of humour. He will be taking a gap year back in Nepal. Ashish. From the reserved young boy I first interviewed to the confident young man we have here today. A keen cricketer, maybe we could do with him around at the moment. He'll be heading back to India for a gap year. Ashish. The poet king of Bhutan. Both reliable and humble. And he will be turning to spend a gap year back in Bhutan, and he will be sorely missed within our community. Tob Gay. The social glue of our community. A scientific mind and humanitarian heart. She will be heading off to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Kinzan. I'm not sure where to start with this young lady. Certainly unique. A keen dancer. Perhaps not the best timekeeper in the room, but she certainly makes up for it with her enthusiasm. She'll be heading off to the US to attend Connecticut College this autumn. Mingyu. A deep thinker with a questioning mind. His dulcet tones can be heard reverberating around Pestalozzi. And he's heading off to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology this autumn. Tenzin Jampa. Now this young lady is our gracious volleyball player. She didn't need to wear heels tonight, she's certainly taller than most of us. Her exploits at last year's staff student rounders match showed her enthusiasm and competitive nature, without a doubt. And she is heading off to Mount Holyoke College in the US this autumn. Marion. I can usually hear this young lady coming down into our office due to her cheerful and infectious laugh. She certainly shows grit and determination that I've rarely seen. Last summer, she volunteered with the Drug Enforcement Commission back in Zambia, which is no mean feat. Certainly precious by name, precious by nature. Are precious. A fiercely determined young lady in everything that she does. She's a member of our choir. However, she also displays a level of sensitivity towards others that was certainly recognized among the community. She'll be taking a gap year back in Indonesia. Olivia. Goes to a one-man basketball team. Due to his constant presence on the court, and I can hear him from my kitchen, boing, clink, boing, clink. And he will be also heading off to Connecticut College this autumn. So there'll be two pests there together to keep each other company. Lemson. I would now like to call up my respected colleague Faye Fellows to present our special awards and House Shield for this year. When you have such exceptional students, it is incredibly difficult just to single a few out for special awards. And we had to go through this difficult task to come to this final list. So, for outstanding contribution to Pestalozzi, for reliability, community spirit, and her fantastic organisational skills, Bernice. An ever-reliable and supportive student, and this is recognised by his peers. He's recognised for being a great listener. The Best Student Role Model Award goes to Todd Gale. Recognising the student who has made the most progress in their second year here at Pestalozzi, for their overall all-round growth and development, Ashish Acharya. And it was so difficult to choose one recipient of that award that we're awarding a second. And for this young lady who has just had an amazing personal journey throughout the 2 years that she has been here at Pestalozzi, Precious. To recognise this young lady's voracious commitment to her academic studies, the Academic Achievement Award goes to Olivia. And our final award is the awarding of the House Shield for various competitions that we've held this year. I promise there is no fix. And this is for Alexander House. So I'd like to... I'd like to call up Pravidik, Mingur, Isaac, Tobgay and Bernice.
I would like to now take this moment to thank our colleague Carol Blythe, who has possibly more stories than any of us after working here for 39 and a half years and giving her heart to this organisation. Let us now welcome our final student speakers of the evening to the stage, Bernice and Nis Chow.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today it is an honour for me to stand here and share a few words about my 2-year journey at Pestalozzi. As I try to look back on these 2 years, I am reminded of the time that we had a dance and creativity session with Hugh and Gail, where we were asked to draw a diagram reflecting our 2-year journey at Pestalozzi. After about 15 minutes of work time, the results we got were pretty interesting. The first half of my drawing showed green hills filled with flowers, butterflies, and a glorious sunshine. The second half was filled with volcanoes, big, red, active volcanoes. And everyone's drawing were pretty similarly themed. To interpret this for you, the first half of our diagram showed our first year. Oh, those were the glory days. with minimal homework, deadlines, and tensions. It was filled with visiting places, enjoying club activities, and trying out a lot of different new things without a care in the world. But the second year was something else entirely. The volcanoes were big ones, namely SAT, college essays, admissions, and the month-long A-level exams. Anyone who saw us during the peak of application season can confirm. We looked like a bunch of zombies, drained of energy, mindlessly interacting with the world around us. But again, what doesn't challenge us does not change us. And change us, it did. For me personally, it gave me the confidence to believe in myself and start doing what I need to do. I may not get it the first time around, but I know I'll get there eventually. But there's no way I can wrap up all of my Pestalozzi experience with just that. Because Pestalozzi is about the community, the noodle cups, the movie nights. It was those insane Pestalozzi trips, some where we spread our arms wide open to embrace the British heritage, and others where we close our eyes and scream at the top of our lungs, "Oh God, please stop." That was the Chessington trip yesterday. Right, Isaac? It was really fun. It was after coming here that I discovered my love for drumming. It's something that I'd never tried before and has soon become one of my favorite hobbies, but also a means of expression. I would like to express special thanks to Jampa, Asistas, Pravidik, among other people who together make the Physics Boys. Their passionate and tempting descriptions of the universe, black hole, and the origin really made me question what I loved about economics. And in doing so, solidified my interest in the subject and gave me an idea of what I want to be doing in the future. Also, thank you to Acharya and Jampa for having accompanied me in lots of intellectual experiments, and Nancy and Patry for having guided me all the while. I would like to thank the student program for working tirelessly on our behalf, especially this year, as the diagram I told you about also applied to them. Faye, you've been like a mother to all of us, and I will never forget that if he had not crossed out my first Common App essay draft and written rubbish on his corner, I wouldn't have come up with the second piece, the masterpiece. So thank you very much for being so caring, but also stern when it need be. Mags, before my Pesta interview, I asked Bigyandai, a Pesta alumni, Dai, how is Mags like? He casually replied, "Don't worry, she's cool." I realized the degree of your coolness when I got to witness your dance in the cultural night last year. Guys, if you haven't seen her dance, do ask her to. She'll blow you away. Carol, on behalf of everyone, I would like to sincerely thank you for your commitment to Pestalozzi. You have always greeted us with a warm smile whenever we came to the office, which always made everyone's day a little bit better. Nancy and Patry, you guys have always been like sisters, not just to me, but everyone at Pesta. Your emotional support has guided us through the most difficult of times, and I would like to thank you very much for that. Patry, although I wasn't the most regular attendee of Spanish classes, I've learned the most important words of the Spanish vocabulary through you. Nancy, I'm going to miss your crisp cakes. Not trying to say they're burnt. Your joyful jokes, subtle sarcasm, and your amazing alliteration. I would like to sincerely thank you for helping me fulfill my wish list, whether it was having a drum lesson, scaling bike trails on a mountain bike, or driving with my head out of the window. While at Pesta, I got to do so many things that I always wanted to, but never had the chance to. Ice skating, skateboarding, the trip to Google headquarters, seeing the magical city of London, buying things online. So in a way, Pestalozzi itself was a huge dream come true to me. But it has also been a bigger stepping stone. It has also been a bigger stepping stone as I prepare to start the next chapter of my life at the University of Pennsylvania. I've learned a lot about myself in these last 2 years, not least of which was who I am and who I want to be. In the meanwhile, I've also had the amazing chance of witnessing the growth of everyone around me. The genius mathematician from Nepal, the thoughtful theoretical physicist from Tibet, the eccentric engineer from India, the charming poet king from Bhutan, the super cool computer scientist from Nepal, and no, I'm talking about Acharya there. Everyone in the class of 2019 was so smart and insanely talented. Societies, nations, and the world will undergo massive changes in the next 20 years. And I will guarantee you that these people in front of us today
will play a pivotal role in making all of that happen. So thank you, Pestalozzi.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, Your Excellencies, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Throughout my childhood years spent on the mosquito buzzing side of Belize City, it was clear to me that hard work would be the passageway to a better life for myself. My mother had lived on the streets from the time she could walk and spent her days working in kitchens in order to secure her day's meal. My father went to school only to learn how to read and write, whilst working tirelessly in the cultivation of fruits. However, it was only when I came across former neurosurgeon and current American politician Benjamin Carson that I realized there was a sparkle to hard work. I realized the power to dream big lay at the tip of my tongue, and all I had to do was declare the greatness of an almost impossible idea and see it come true. The Pestalozzi Scholarship was one of these impossibilities that became a reality in my life. I'm sure Olivia and Marion have probably had enough of my favorite, "Oh, I feel like I'm in a movie" phrase, because it accurately describes the emotional and intellectual growth I have had while at Pestalozzi, beside an amazing group of individuals I have come to love dearly, and of course, Hall of Fame actors and singers like Tenzin Jampa. It's been a movie I have had the privilege of laughing, crying, jumping, screaming, hugging, and shaking hands of world-renowned artists and politicians. Is it really finishing? Perhaps it's just starting. Let me see. Let's go and rewind time. Once upon a time, there lived Mama Ladybird, and she decided to give birth to thousands of tiny ladybirds. In one of her batches, she wondered if she had eaten something outside her diet because one of her little ladybirds, Nishal, would constantly fall off his bike or skateboard, trying to find his balance. But oh, how great of a computer programmer he had turned out. Then came Mingir, the dancer who would sweep you off your feet, and Joelyn, the superstar singer who would sing ever so beautifully. There were so many ladybirds, each with their talents and perhaps slight quirks here and there, but nothing much, and she was so very proud of them. Wait, this is starting to sound like one of those children's stories. After all, we're all adults in this room, right? Well, let's come back to the present. My Pestalozzi journey has been in many ways a delicious fruitcake, a cake with an array of colorful fruits to choose from, each with a specific vitamin to enrich you. I can tell you that I was very much enriched academically, emotionally, and spiritually, maybe overly enriched. From killer-ziller lessons in English with Mr. DePleve to invigorating dance sessions with Mrs. Eckhoff, who I must admit ignited a fire of non-stop dancing within me, and I am sure Mr. Eckhoff probably feels the fire on his feet 24/7. Going to Spain as part of a one-week study abroad program was also another dream come true, as I met and greeted students with a flair for diversity, and this would not have been possible without Claremont's unwavering support. Meeting world-renowned pianist Katia Bunyatishvili at the Barbican Hall in London would also not have been possible without my dearest host mom, Sue Nichols, who I would love to publicly thank. Ben Carson once said, "Success is determined not by whether or not you face obstacles, but by your reaction to them. And if you look at these obstacles as a containing fence, they become your excuse for failure. If you look at them as a hurdle, each one strengthens you for the next. My time at Pestalozzi has also strengthened my character and has made me savor the taste of both victory and defeat. A preparation for bigger challenges that lie in my path. As Graham Card says, rejection is just one of those doors that didn't get an answer, or was a no answer, and so I just want to reassure my fellow Pestalozzi mates that through any difficult phase of our lives, we must remember to keep knocking on every door until the right one opens. I want to extend my utmost gratitude to the Student Program Office for supporting and believing in me at every step of my journey. Thank you also to the marketing team, including our lovely Martin, Hannah, and Michael, who ensured to keep us at the forefront of the Pestalozzi website.
I also want to thank my Creator, the God of my salvation, because without Him as well, I wouldn't be here. It's weird not having juniors, and so instead of giving my final advice, I simply want to celebrate the valuable friendships and moments spent with every single person here. From Bedgebury with Nansilicious, Nishal, and Ashish, to the How Can We Forget Birmingham trip. I will never forget getting fed cake by all of the Pestalozzi boys, except Ashish, I think. on my birthday and having my Spanish moments with Patri. I love you all. And as we set out to become future prime ministers, well, at least let's keep that as my own ambition. World scientists, Pravidik, yeah. And every other dream that keeps us awake at night. May we know that it does not matter where we come from or what we look like. If we recognize our abilities, are willing to learn, and to use what we know in helping others, we will always have a place in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernice and Nischa, for capturing your journeys so beautifully. Bernice, I think we could all learn something from you by the way you look at the world and your enthusiasm for life, and we can't wait to see what you do with your gap year. It's really been a blessing getting to know you. Nischa, I remember you first stepping foot in the UK, and just watching you up there now, I don't have the words for how proud I am. Sandra is a member of the care team here, and she's also become a very dear friend of mine. She once described Pestalozzi as a whisper away from heaven. I think I speak for all the members of staff when I say that being part of this organisation has fundamentally changed us all for the better. Some days I'm astounded that in this quiet, sleepy corner of the world, we all stumbled into one another and into such compassion, hope, and community. Although I have only worked at Pestalozzi for a snippet in the grand scheme of time, it's impacted my heart in a very permanent way. The students I have met will remain my benchmark reminder of how startling and magic life can be and how much good there is in the world. I would like to finish up with a quote from a very wise person. Pestalozzi has moulded our clay-like minds into fully fledged, globally conscious citizens. Although it may no longer maintain its physical form here in Ladybird Lane, the success stories are what matter the most, inspiring stories that we and the generations before us will go on to make. I took this from a speech by Kinzang Tobgay, who is sitting just ahead of me now. His words capture our transition beautifully. I know that for some this estate will always be home. It has shaped us and taught us, and now it catapults us out into the world, away from our bubble of safety. We will leave it ready for its new owners, knowing always what it has meant to us to be here, but happy that the legacy of inspiring young people can continue on this site. Ordinarily, at this point in the evening, we would follow a tradition whereby the first-year students would sing a goodbye song for their seniors. Unfortunately, this time, that wasn't a possibility. It was hard to come up with an alternative farewell to match this, but finally, we had an idea. So here's a surprise for you. Although it took some persuading, it is now my pleasure to welcome back Mags Alexander to perform a solo piece for you all.
You need a friend too.
Down
just wanted to take this moment to say now that half the reason I love Pestalozzi is the students, but the other half is the staff who've become such good friends of mine. Thank you all. To round off the evening, I would like to welcome CEO Susan Walton to give the final speech of the night.
Thank you, Nancy. Ooh, I need to adjust this. My husband's a sound man. He could have done a better job of that, really, couldn't he? Whoa!
You can't win them all, folks.
Your Royal Highness, Vice Lord Lieutenant, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us here this evening. This is my 9th Leavers Ceremony, the 9th speech, and I thought that this one would be easier because I didn't have to follow a group of first years having just performed absolutely amazingly. It isn't any easier. In fact, it's harder this time around because it is the last time I'm going to be doing this. Deep breath. So the thank yous first then. Well, after that performance, I'd really like to say a big thank you to Stuart Patient, who, like his name, was very patient with us when we were learning the song. Stuart was the guitarist who played beautifully there. We were like herding cats. It was very difficult to get us to behave. I have some sympathy with him when he was teaching you guys to play guitar for Beatles Day. But thank you very much for that, Stuart. I really, really appreciate your support and your help. Thank you to all of our guest speakers for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedules to be here with us today, particularly you, sir. Having been our patron for 42 years now, I think, maybe longer, we appreciate your support greatly. I want to thank all of those students who have spoken so eloquently, and Nancy, our MC, who has been amazing. I think you will all agree. Can we give her a round of applause? I want to thank all the staff and the volunteers who make an event like this possible. It takes an awful lot of effort to make something look so effortless, and they have done a really amazing job. Thank you all. And thanks to all of our guests for being here tonight. Thank you for joining us for this last time here in the village. It's been a roller coaster of a year for us all for very, very many reasons. And I want to give my heartfelt thanks to the trustees who have stuck with us throughout all of this. Your support has been amazing. It really has. You were there when it counted, and we really appreciate that. You offered good counsel to me when I needed it, and I appreciate that too. And you had the courage to take difficult decisions, and it was a difficult decision to make the move that we are making, but it was the right one. And I know that going forward, we can continue to provide scholarships to young people like these for many, many years to come, and in partnership with UWC. We couldn't have asked for a better partner, sharing our thoughts and our ethos, providing our next cohort of students with a multi-faith, multicultural experience, which, as any of our students here today will tell you, is one of the most important things about being a Pestalozzi scholar. So thank you for that. Thank you for your support, Jens. For my staff team too, you have really been amazing. Everything that went well over the past year is entirely down to you guys. Everything that went badly, or less well, let's put it that way, is down to me. I know that you have put 110% effort into this, from the person who joined as a fundraiser and ended up driving our minibus, to the person who joined as my COO and ended up working in the kitchens. You've done fantastically well for us all, and we all appreciate it. Now, every year I kind of struggle with what to say at this point, usually because I'm sort of working around what's worth saying. This year I've been wrestling with the dilemma of what not to say because there is so much going on. Now, every morning on my way to Pestalozzi, I listen to the Today programme. Now, I know I should know better, but, you know, hope gains over experience every time, and I do shout at the radio quite a bit between Carter's Corner and Sedlescombe. By the time I get here now, in fact for the past year, Brexit fatigue has really set in. And I'm truly fed up, truly fed up with listening to politicians putting party before people and cant before country. Now, it can take several strong cups of coffee before I actually get back into the swing of things, but I have to say that by the time I get here and I've driven up that hill, up Ladybird Lane, my heart has always risen because I know what I'm coming to do is the best job in the world. It has been for 8-9 years, and when we leave here, I am not going to look for another job because you guys have made my job the best thing that I've ever done, and that's how I want to leave it. So thank you very much indeed. So going back to me shouting at the radio then, Nelson Mandela once said that fools multiply when wise men are silent. And I fear that while there are wise voices of reason out there, that they are simply being drowned out at the moment, mostly by the persistent twittering of those who only really want to hear the sound of their own voices. And the really important issues of the day, actually of the decade, not yet just the day, are not Brexit or Boris. Those are just the ones that are grabbing the headlines at the moment. The real issues are continued inequality and, of course, what we are facing today as a climate emergency. And they're linked. On Monday, I don't know whether any of you saw this report from Philip Alston, the UN's Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty, but he warned us that climate apartheid, and I think he coined that phrase, climate apartheid is upon us. As those in our communities who have least will lose the most as the crisis deepens. And he highlighted that climate inequality is already with us in a big way. It's very real for very many. Now, one small voice that is being heard at the moment is that of the 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg. Now, this young woman addressed the Houses of Parliament, speaking truth to power, and told them that, and I'm going to quote her, "Avoiding climate breakdown will require cathedral thinking. We must lay the foundation while we may not know exactly how to build the ceiling." I know there's at least one trained architect amongst our audience who may dispute that, however. Cathedral thinking. I think that's what it's about. But it takes courage to step into the unknown, to start the foundations when you don't know what the roof is going to look like. But knowing absolutely that if you don't take action, then no one else will, and recognizing the truth of Gandhi's words, which get paraphrased in a way that apparently annoys his family, but I'm going to quote what he actually said, is if we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. We need not wait to see what others do. Sadly, cathedral thinking at the moment is a frightening prospect, I suspect, for politicians whose horizon is probably the next election and not the next generation. I'm hoping you guys can do some cathedral thinking and put the next generation beyond the next election. Anyway, that was Monday. I was listening to this on Monday. So Tuesday coming in, Sir Peter Lamphall from the Sutton Trust was talking about an increasingly divided society. And he wasn't talking about the divisions of whether you're a Remainer or whether you're a Brexiteer. He was talking about education. The Sutton Trust had done some research, and they had looked at the top 5,000 positions, jobs in the UK. And they had analysed those 5,000 against the educational background of the people in those positions. And they'd analysed everything from senior judges to pop stars, and I thought that that was interesting in itself. And they found that overall, 39% of those in those senior positions were privately educated, whereas in the country as a whole, 7% of our population are privately educated. So there was clearly an imbalance there somewhere. I can tell you that the figure was 65% for the senior judges, and it was 20% for the pop stars, if anybody's interested. It is a very good report. I would encourage you to read it. And the gap actually stretches wider when you look at Oxbridge-educated people in those positions. 71% of senior judges are Oxbridge-educated, 57% of cabinet ministers, and this was interesting to me, 44% of national journalists, Oxbridge-educated. Bearing in mind the struggle that we know Oxbridge has with its diversity, it poses a question as to whether or not our politicians, or indeed our media, are actually representative of the people that they are representing. Now, of course, bearing in mind the age of some of the incumbents in those positions, you'll realise that actually this is a legacy of the 60s and 70s when things were not changing. And we can hope that those proportions change as successive generations come through and reach that point in their own careers. However, nothing will change if the people in power, the people empowered to appoint them, keep appointing people in their own image. And they often take the safe route because it is safer for them to appoint someone who comes from a recognised educational background, who comes from a school or a university that is undoubted. And so it's too risky to rely on someone who's come through a state education or has gone to a red brick university, and they don't take those risky decisions. And frankly, from my perspective, that is their loss. I'd rather take on a candidate who has succeeded in spite of their background and not because of it. And I am looking at a group of young people here who have succeeded in spite of their backgrounds and not because of them, and I am very proud of you. I think it's incumbent upon us to do our very best to ensure that every child gets the quality of education that they deserve. So there should never be any question in anyone's mind as to whether a young person, a candidate for a job, has been to the right school, because they have all had an excellent level and quality of education. And I know that Pestalozzi will continue to try to ensure that that chance and that opportunity is given to every young person that we can support. And we can't do that without your help. We need to fund that programme, and I hope that you will continue to support us as we provide scholarships to more children, more young people going forward. Now, we already have our own alumni setting up their own schools and their own colleges in their home countries, instigating scholarship programs and offering to others the opportunity that the Pestalozzi Ladybird offered to them. And in doing that, they repay your investment in them, our investment in them, tenfold. And I know that they will continue to do that. And I am hopeful that the Pestalozzi Development Fund, when we kick it off at the end of this year, will encourage our alumni to apply to us for seed funding, for small amounts of capital, to set up those charities and those educational opportunities and those social enterprises that are going to deliver that quality of education to young people who really, really do deserve it. So to you, our leavers, Henry Ford suggested that anyone who stops learning is old, whether they're 20 or they're 80, and anyone who keeps learning stays young. And I truly hope that that is the case, because I have learned from you every day, just watching you and seeing how you deal with those obstacles that have been set before you, using every stumbling block as a stepping stone to something better, supporting each other and forging friendships that are going to last you a lifetime. You guys, you're brave, you're thoughtful, you're funny, you're clever, you're resilient, you're strong. But most of all, you're a family, and you're our family, my family. And you have your foundations built on integrity and respect. And like Greta Thunberg, while you're standing on those firm foundations, you don't yet know what the ceiling's going to look like, but don't worry about that, because even if you don't ever get that ceiling, you can still look up and see the stars. And that's where your ambition should be. So, as you prepare yourselves for a leap into the unknown, remember that you need to be bold. And unlike those elites who want to take the safe route, the thing that they know, the safe option, I want to encourage you to take risks. They're not all going to pay off, but you will learn from them, and you'll learn more from them probably than from your successes. So take risks. And whatever you do, wherever you go, be compassionate and be kind. And I know that you're going to be remarkable. And I want to leave you with a message from a Nobel laureate. This encapsulates some of my heartfelt wishes for you as you step out into the world and you start making your voices heard on the things that really matter. So, in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, and don't worry, I'm not going to sing again, that's fine. Oh, thanks. May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of changes shift. May your hearts always be joyful. May your songs always be sung. And may you stay forever young. And stay in touch while you're at it, okay? Thank you all very much indeed.
We would like to warmly invite all of you to stay for canapes and maybe, if we're lucky, some of Mags's spectacular dancing. Students, may I now ask you to come forwards for your group photo, but finally, let me thank you for being a part of the magic of Pestalozzi, and may I wish you all a safe journey home.